أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So we have been discussing the paradise, the 28th word, which talks about paradise and the verses and narrations about paradise, and the author, without mentioning the questions and doubts that are being mentioned for those, answering some questions to us. So we went through 2 questions so far. Inshallah, today we will continue with the 3rd question. So, question: according to the meaning of al-mar'u ma'a man ahabba, everyone will be together with those he loves, which is a hadith from Bukhari and Muslim and Tirmidhi. So it's a sahih hadith. Everyone will be together with those he loves. According to the meaning of this hadith, in paradise, friend will be together with friend. Therefore, love for God's sake kindled in a simple nomad during 1 minute's conversation with the Prophet ﷺ means he has to be with the Prophet ﷺ in paradise. But since God's noble messenger receives limitless effulgence, how can it be united with that of a simple nomad? How can it be that Prophet ﷺ and that this Bedouin who just spoke to the messenger for very brief moments, and he became a believer and he loved the messenger because of the message he brought, and now that the one who loves is going to be together with the one whom he loves, are they going to be in the same paradise? But God's messenger receives limitless effulgence. So the paradise that he will be in must be much more, let's say, beautiful than a regular person who is not that much elevated in his degree. How is that possible? They answer: we shall allude to this elevated truth with a comparison. For example, a magnificent personage set up a vast banquet and finely adorned spectacle in a splendid garden. He prepared it in such a way that it included all the delicious foods that the sense of taste can experience, and all the fine things that please the sense of sight, and all the wonders that amuse the faculty of imagination, and so on. He included in it everything that would gratify and give pleasure to the external and inner senses. Now there were 2 friends, and they of taste of one of them, Now there were 2 friends, and they went together to the banquet and sat down at a table in a pavilion. But the sense of taste of one of them was very limited, so he received only minor pleasure. His eyes could see only a little, he had no sense of smell, and he could not understand the wondrous arts nor comprehend the marvels. He could only benefit from and take pleasure in 1,000th or even 1,000,000th of that beautiful place to the extent of his capacity. The other man, however, had developed his outer and inner senses, his mind, heart, emotions, and subtle faculties so perfectly and to such a degree that, although he was next to his friend, he could perceive and experience all the subtleties and beauties and marvels and fine things in the exhibition, and receive their different pleasures. Since this confused, sorrowful, and narrow world is thus, and although the greatest and the least are together, the greatest and the least or the lowest are together, the difference between them is as great as from the ground to the Pleiades. Surely in paradise, the realm of bliss and eternity, while friend is together with his friend, each will receive his share from the table of the most merciful and compassionate one in accordance with his capacity and to the extent of his abilities. Even if the paradises in which they are found are different, it will not be an obstacle to their being together. For although the 8 levels of paradise are one above the other, the roof of all of them is the sublime throne. And this again, meaning of a narration, hadith narration. If there are walled circles round a conical mountain, one within the other, and one above the other from its foot to the summit, the circles are one over the other and look to one another, but do not prevent each other seeing the sun. There are also various narrations of hadith indicating that the paradises are in a manner close to this. Okay. So I think the question is clear. The answer is clear on the surface. But if there's anything under the surface, it would be nice to discuss. Brother Bikram, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. So my question is about, like, with the previous parts. So as you said, the question is the obvious. The answer is, again, kind of obvious. But I'm not sure why he's studying this question and giving this answer, because so if you take it as, oh, he's just simply, has this question in his, let's say, study on his table, and he's just trying to give the answer. Somebody asked him, maybe sending email and so on, mail, not email. So with the previous ones, it was kind of clear that he was, by studying the question about the paradise, he was actually trying to open up a new understanding, a better understanding of our world, our reality here in the moment. So I wonder how we can use these question and answer for our benefit as well in the same way. Otherwise, if we just see how he answers these questions, to be honest, this is not a question that I have. Like, if somebody mentions such an hadith, I would say, yeah, probably it's true, and then go away. Like, I don't care much about the details. So it should be that he's studying this question because it's probably important for everyone.
Yes. So that's a good point. So how is this answer relevant to me if that question is not my question? Or, like, is there a different flavor of that question that can be a question for me? Yeah. So when Quran describes paradise, it's drawing a picture, and I guess the next question becomes, are we all going to the same paradise? Like, what does it take to get into paradise? And is it like Disneyland, once you buy the ticket and for the entire day or however long you stay there, you can get into any of those machines? Like, everybody's ticket is the same. So it all matters just to step in. Once you step in, you can enjoy any of the rides in there.
And somebody can even cut the line and get the, like, before you.
So, because the idea of paradise, and if I'm willing to get into paradise, so It definitely gives some sort of an incentive to work for, but what else is there? So as if this is saying that being in the paradise, I need to be prepared for being in paradise. I might be in the same environment with somebody else, but what I'm going to benefit from that environment. And yeah, Quran says so there are rivers flowing there, yes, but they make a magnificent, beautiful sound, but I am deaf, so I'm not able to hear. So the description was right. There was the sound, but I'm not hearing it because I made myself deaf. So this sort of a thing then becomes, how do I make or strive so that I do not kill my senses? Or how do I prepare that my senses are going to be receptive to the joys of paradise? And by asking the question the way he posed it, it is as if saying that there is an example of a person who is perfectly going to benefit from paradise. So if you like, the descriptions of paradise fits to one person 100%. And to the extent that you get aligned with that person, you are going to benefit from the paradise that much. So it's not only that my heart is clean sort of an attitude rather than that. So yeah, Quran is describing as paradise. And there is a person who will benefit from paradise exactly like that. And if you would like to benefit near him from the same paradise, you better train your senses and faculties the way he did. And of course, this is for the meaning of paradise that starts after death. But can we talk about the same for this world as well? Like a paradise that starts in here. Because as we are studying miracles of the messenger in another discussion, so in there, the descriptions or the miracles that the messenger showed are very similar to the descriptions of paradise as well. Like, he commands and trees come to him, and just rivers are flowing indefinitely, infinitely from even his hand. So I mean, not only metaphorically, but as if literally he was living in some sort of a paradise as well, and the people around him observed that in a sense. Or like the descriptions that are mentioned for paradise is also fitting there, which makes me question, is the boundary between paradise and this world is so thick, or it gets thinner to the extent that you become more cognizant of your creator? And as I start seeing it like that, because paradise is the place where one recognizes or becomes aware of presence of his creator constantly, because this is the world in which causes are being like a veil between me and my creator, and I need to unveil this to start observing my creator. Otherwise, I can get lost in the causes. Paradise is the place in which this veil of causes is lifted from my eyes. So, which makes me think then, to the extent that I can lift that veil of causes from my eyes, I will start seeing this paradise, or start tasting it, start observing it. Because, and actually this is by Prophet's descriptions as well. Prophet describes the intermediate realm as when the person gets into the grave, a window opens to, if he is a person of paradise, he will observe paradise from that realm. If he's a person of hell, he's going to observe hell from that realm. So a window to the hell opens, a window to the paradise opens. So which tells us that actually paradise is not that far away. and the boundary between this life and afterlife is not maybe that much of a thick binary boundary, but it might be maybe a gradual change, or even for some, maybe that difference is not that much. If this then becomes the case, I guess this question becomes much more relevant for our everyday life. What do you think?
No, I agree, especially when we take it together with the answer. So from the answer, we now understand that the paradise is not a place where your perception, your understanding, your imagination, or your the desires are taken away. It's a place that you act, and then that you pursue according to your state. What you see in paradise, what you enjoy in paradise, it's kind of a reflection of what you are able to receive, what you are able to enjoy. So I guess it puts a big responsibility then about getting ready for the paradise. So it's not about just putting some check marks on the required prayers or required obligations. It's about getting ready yourself, getting ready for the paradise. Am I able to enjoy? Am I able to understand and distinguish all these different tastes, all these different pleasures, all these different nima? If not, I should be I should train myself. How many names I see in creation, how many beautiful names I see in the creation. So if the only name I see in the creation is the creator, then probably paradise will be for me a paradise of creation, and that's all. So things will be created in front of me. I'm just, of course, making up, but so depending on the beautiful names of the creator that you are trained in this world, what you get hereafter will change, at least from your perspective. So I think this is important, and as you said, it directly links hereafter with the current life, worldly life we have. So it's a meaningful continuation of this life. It's not like, you have training in this life, and once you are graduated, then you can forget about all the training you had. It was all about pass or fail, and you passed. Now you are in heaven. So I remember I was talking with a friend years ago, and he was saying, so I don't understand that in Quran it talks about different levels of paradise, for instance. He would say the paradise is like a gift of the creator, and whether you prayed a lot or not, whether you trained this way or that way in this world, it doesn't matter. You just get the paradise, he was saying. So, but such an understanding cuts the link, the continuation. It introduces a broad discontinuity with this life and the hereafter. It also means, as you said, you cannot have an understanding, have a proof for hereafter in this life. You have to believe. But with this kind of attitude that the author is mentioning, you understand hereafter based on what you experience in this world. And the example he gave, it's like a worldly example. Of course, it's just an example, but by simply looking at the worldly experiences we have, we are able to make sense of it. Also, there must be something about this, the love part as well. Like, I don't know how yet, but so I'm trying to see the question again. So everyone will be together with those he loves. So it's as if, like, this part doesn't say that you won't be with those you don't love. It does not say, but as if it implies that, as if, you know, it defines paradise as like the center of gravity for love, that whatever you love in this world, they will be with you in paradise. So as much love as you see in this world, the bigger paradise you will have, or more pleasure, more love you will have there. If you are living this world in a way that you don't love things, you don't love people, that everybody is a troublemaker, everything is against your well-being. If this is the world that you are living in, if love is not there for you in this world, then you will not find much love in hereafter either, I guess. Again, this is a little bit far-fetched interpretation of this hadith, but when I read this again and again, I think there is this emphasis about love part as well.
Yes. So this was a good point. I'll come to that. But before this, I just want to take us back to the very first sentence where the author was saying, we shall mention a number of steps and as samples of that Quranic paradise, a number of fine points. So he is mentioning a Quranic paradise, so which makes me think that one way to take paradise or a sample of paradise is Quran. Like in here in this world, being reading Quran takes me into paradise, because there are certain parallelisms in life, like in the existence and the meaning. And the Quran makes use of very beautiful examples of that. Like to explain what I mean is, let's say one very famous example for that is falling into water. Multiple words can be used for that in Arabic, but when it talks about Yusuf alayhi salam being thrown into a well, Quran uses the word ghayabat al-jubbi. So the word itself sounds like somebody is falling into water. Like the meaning is coupled with its appearance. So this is also happening in life. Like there are things in life which are coupled with its meaning. You don't need to give a second thought about it, or like the reality of it and its physical appearance are coupled with each other. Maybe everything is like that, but for some it's more. So an example for that comes to my mind is stars and verses of Quran. Like every verse of Quran is a star in the sense that in darkness, it becomes like a reference point for you, which defines you a direction, which defines you your coordinate and says that you should go in that direction. So wherever Quran mentions stars, I feel like I can read it as it is referring to verses of Quran as well. So when Quran swears by the skies or the stars, and in here actually the author mentioned Pleiades, for example, another star. So whenever I read such things, I see a super meaningful parallelism between stars and the verses. So now here at the beginning of this chapter, author made another similar statement saying that Quranic paradise. So Quran is a paradise actually. When Quran talks about paradise, or when Hadith talks about paradise and its pleasures, I feel like I can read it as a sample of that is in Quran. So each verse of Quran offers me a paradise-like pleasure, or even more, because at the beginning, author was saying that it's Quranic paradise is even more sweeter than the paradise. This sort of a statement he made. So this being said, because apparently this is the author's perspective, and this is what he's trying to give us here, especially about the Quranic paradise or Quran's verses offering me a paradise when I am on earth. If I apply the same to here with that question now, how am I going to sit next to the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I benefited from him, and we are in the same paradise. We are reading the same Quran. So how is that? Yeah, it's quite possible. You read the same Quran, you are being exposed to the same signs, because paradise is nothing but signs of the Creator. But if I am oblivious to it, then although we are being exposed to the same thing, I'm just receiving 1% or 0.001% of what Rasulullah, who is next to me and benefiting from the same, or being exposed to the same, is benefiting. So in this regard, I can also read this as Quran is such a deep ocean, such a vast ocean, such a huge paradise that potentially I can benefit from, and maybe I am not even scratching the surface. And if you would like to benefit from Quran, if you would like to enjoy the paradise of Quran, sit next to the Prophet ﷺ, but not only sit there, not only locate yourself physically close to him, but also in terms of improving my skill set to understand Quran, in which case it's not only skill set in here, not only refers to the Arabic language or like intellectual, it's not exclusively one or the other, but holistically, how Rasulullah as a human with all his senses and features that were given to him, how did he utilize them? And I guess in a nutshell, we can summarize it as the way he lived life, like sunnah. What was his sunnah in all its dimensions? So do I have this, or actually I should have this desire to be better of a student of him, because this person truly tasted every possible tastes of that paradise of Quran. And if I'm going to learn it from someone, this is him. So that means, as if it is like if I take you to my hometown, and it's a paradise-like city, right? Well, I mean, sort of. Anyways.
You started moving the camera when you said, if I take you to my hometown, as if, you are taking us to your hometown.
Okay. So what will I do? You will say that, oh, Yusuf, what are the famous restaurants here? Take us to the best food, or take us to the best sightseeing, right? Because I am the person who knows that city. I lived in there. I know the environment. And you're going to trust in me in that, saying that, okay, yeah, this is like a good place. So paradise is the dwelling place, or it is made for the human being, Prophet ﷺ. So he is enjoying and knowing every single part of it. Now I'm metaphorically applying this paradise to, as the author inviting us to, Quran. So the paradise of Quran is the dwelling place of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if I would like to enjoy or benefit from the paradise of Quran, every single sign being mentioned in Quran, because Quran is shifa, as Quran itself tells, Quran is shifa ullinnas, and I have a lot of diseases and I am in need of all those cures, then learn it from the one who benefited to the minutest detail of it, which is Messenger ﷺ. So this was my first part of my talk, which was about the parallelism of Quran and paradise. So in this life, that to that paradise you and I can enter. To the paradise of Quran, you and I can enter in this life, because Rasulullah entered to the paradise of Quran. He lived in that paradise of Quran when he was in this life. Otherwise, how can you really bear with a life the messenger bared? I mean, such a hard life, and it's just miraculous. Like the 23 years of life that he lived through, and he went through, and with the grace of his Lord succeeded through, is unimaginable. Like I just compare my attempts for doing like 0.001 of what he did, and how the obstacles are coming on my way, and how quickly I give up, for example. So the paradise that he must live in must be so much satisfactory for him that he endured. So this was just one part of the coin. Now to your second point, this, yes, the author makes his point through a hadith narration, and it's a Sahih hadith from Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi. So what does Rasulullah mean by that hadith? Now let's put it under the microscope. And by putting into that context, the author could have asked the question without mentioning this hadith, but he is making an interpretation of this hadith in that context, so bringing it up as a topic here. So everyone will be together with those he loves. So Rasulullah is making a connection between nearness and love. And it's like just a few words, al-mar'u ma'a man ahabba. And this is Rasulullah's way of speaking. With very few words, he means so many things. And as if the author is saying that from that, I'm going to take you somewhere. So if you love someone, you need to be with that one, is one way to take it. Because if you love that person, stand next to that person. You cannot say, I love that person, but I'm going to stand aside. And I take this as walking the way of that person, because that person is walking in a direction Rasulullah ﷺ is walking. And is that, where do I walk? Next to whom do I walk? And where do I locate myself? This is one way. But on top of that, author in here also mentioned that standing next to someone does not always mean that you are perfectly aligned with that person either. Because you might be standing next to that person, but you might be much lesser in terms of your understanding or perception or benefit. So apparently the author take the other side of the coin as well. But taking it back to your question, what is the thing about love here? Like loving messenger. Is this important? Where is it? What does it mean for you? And why did the author bring it up in this topic of paradise? Yes. Okay. So I'm thinking about what do I like? What do I love? So the things that I love are sometimes I love things that I benefit from. Sometimes I love things that I feel like are cool. Like people around me tell me that, oh, this is like if you get this, if you do that, you're going to look better. So I run after it without knowing whether it will be good for me or not. But I have this tendency that if I take it, I'm going to be better. So some sort of a self-gratification is behind that. So that love is for the sake of myself, actually, not for the sake of the creator. But in here, the author is talking about love for God's sake. Love for God's sake. Because apparently there are dirty loves, as the one I mentioned, which for the egotistical purposes, I love someone. But love for God's sake is, there is a beauty, and I appreciate that beauty not for the sake of myself, but as it is connecting with my creator. So then to the extent that I love the messenger for the sake of my creator, then maybe that love, can it be in and of itself become that means to get a higher elevated position in paradise? Because if I can appreciate the messenger more for the sake of Allah, then that means I see more names of the creator on the messenger, which means I get to know my creator more. So in this sense, I don't know if this can be taken as a litmus test for me, but as if increase in my love is shows how much I get to know my creator. The more I love the messenger, if it's a like correct love, then maybe it can be that it's because it can only be because I get to know my creator through him. So I don't know if this is a way to take this hadith.
So you are saying that if we take love here as the love for God's sake, then it is kind of, the understanding becomes clear because you love someone to the extent you know more about your creator, as the person or the thing reflects more of your creator, all the beautiful names of your creator, and you get attached to that person or to that thing because of that, then this person will be with you in paradise, because the paradise is a place, a display, exhibition, the arena of these beautiful names of your creator. And this person is the means that for you that you know your creator's name. So he will be with you, she will be with you, it will be with you there. To the extent, again, it manifests and you get attached to the beautiful names of your creator.
And if you would like to be together with him, not only physically, but also like I can go to an art museum with my wife. Physically, we are together, but the way she is, like she's at a different level of interaction with the artwork than I am. So if I would like to be more together with my wife when visiting art museum, then I would, like, if I read a couple books about art, probably I'm going to become more together with her when I next time go to art museum, because now we can discuss about art. I will, previously I would just say, oh, this looks like a cool picture. But now I can maybe talk about, the artist wanted to say this here and whatever. You see even the tone of my voice changed.
So you just destroying her paradise. So don't try to be with her. Let her alone.
So, but then this togetherness, everyone will be together with those he loves. So if I am loving to the with whatever aspect I love that person, I will be together with that person from that aspect. And that person has 1,000,000 dimensions. I love him because of 2 dimensions. And I'm going to be together with him because of these 2 dimensions, because these 2 dimensions are the only real dimensions. This is how I'm taking God's sake, that are worthy of me. The rest of me is blind. I didn't develop. I killed the rest of my qualities. If I didn't kill my qualities and develop them, then I would see him the best on those qualities as well, and I will love him on those aspects as well. Then on those aspects, I'm going to be together with him in the paradise. So because he's the best of human qualities, he demonstrated that. And it is like if you are into, let's say, and this is how it is for human, like you are an expert of something and you see someone who is better than you in that sense, you immediately recognize that person. You start appreciating it immediately because you know what that means. And if you were oblivious to it, you wouldn't even notice it. I mean, this person might be the best of the thinkers and the speakers of Chinese, and you don't speak Chinese. So for you, it's non-existent. So in this sense, human has all those innumerable aspects, and Rasulullah ﷺ is the best of that, and he is living in the paradise of that, meaning he is experiencing and aware of names of the Creator in all these aspects. So to the extent that I can love him, meaning I can appreciate many or any of those dimensions of human in him, then I'm going to be with him. So in a sense, this question is encouraging us to say that try to love Messenger more, which means try to be more human. Try to, and actually this can even be read in the reverse, saying that if there is an aspect you hear from the Messenger and it doesn't sound you lovable, then double check yourself. There is something to study in there for you. Or there is an aspect that is being mentioned from the Messenger which you feel like you're indifferent. Think twice. Because then that means there is something in you. If that behavior, that pattern observed in the Messenger is not moving something in me, then that means I am deaf in this regard. I'm not hearing. Like he is saying something, his personality is, if you like, vibrating some of those wires of that like musical instrument, which is not moving anything in me. So this then can be taken as every verse in Quran, every hadith narration, or everything that every smell that comes to me through this prophetic narration, a prophetic tradition. Check if within myself anything is vibrating. If not, then there is something to be loved over there, and I'm indifferent to that, then that means I do not enjoy that portion of paradise. So here's a wake-up call. If you would be with the one that you love. And if you're not with him, then that means you don't love that. So there is something for you to work on. There's something for you to study on if you would like to expand your paradise. And we do want expanding things, our wealth, right? So if especially if you start making some investments, and then you've bought this house, that house, and you see that, oh, I can buy this other house as well. So expanding your world, expanding your paradise, you start enjoying more by getting to know your creator. So I think this is, in this regard, I now really appreciated more the way author combined this hadith with that question and how it's relevant for our everyday life in here, starting from here, actually, a paradise to which we can enter now and start living in now, which expands to eternity. Author is encouraging us and showing us a way to expand our paradise. So, alhamdulillah. And this hadith also, the way author now interpreted or encouraged us to understand this hadith is so comprehensive in this regard. Any more comments, please? If not, I can continue with the next question. Okay. Question. It is said in hadith, although the huris are clothed in 70 garments, the marrow of their leg bones may be seen. And this is a hadith in Muslim and Tirmidhi, so it's a Sahih hadith. What does this mean? What sort of meaning can it have? What sort of beauty is this? Which seems to be a legitimate question. So what sort of a beauty is that? Marrow of their leg bones may be seen for the huris. And they are in 70 garments. So as if they have invisible garments, not only that, not only their garments are invisible, but also their skin and I don't know, muscles and the fat tissue and everything is invisible. Interesting. Anyways, let's continue. The answer. Its meaning is truly beautiful and its beauty is most lovely. It is like this. In this world, which is ugly, inanimate, lifeless, and for the most part, just as a husk, beauty and loveliness only appear beautiful to the eye. And so long as familiarity is not an obstacle, that is sufficient. So long as it's not an obstacle for familiarity, let me read it like this because the sentence was a little too much for me. So long as it's not an obstacle to become familiar with it, to get accustomed to it, that is sufficient. Whereas in paradise, which is beautiful, living, brilliant, and entirely the essence without the husk, and the kernel without the shell, like the eye, all man's senses and subtle faculties will want to receive their different pleasures and various delights from the huris, the gentle sex, and from the woman of this world, who will be like huris and even more beautiful. So he is talking about two different things here. Like the eye, all men's senses and subtle faculties will want to receive their different pleasures and various delights from the huris, which is the gentle sex here, the gentle human type, and from the woman of this world, who will be like huris and even more beautiful. So, Brother Birkan, we should be more careful with our wives then. So we carry huris who are going to be more beautiful than the huris in the paradise, which is an interesting way to talk about huris actually, saying that what you know as your wife, because like the depiction of huris is like this ideal, so beautiful type. Then he says your wife is going to be even more beautiful. Woman of this world is going to be even more beautiful in paradise, which makes us question further the idea of huris, I think. Anyway, that is
also, I think, explains why we don't have much participant today.
Yeah.
The facts.
Okay. I mean, we have a lot of people here, alhamdulillah. That is to say, the hadith indicates that from the beauty of their top garments to the marrow of their bones, like from the outmost garment to the very innermost part of them, is what I understand from here. Each layer will be the means of pleasure to a sense and a subtle faculty. Yes, by saying the Houris wear 70 garments and the marrow of their leg bones can be seen, the hadith points out that however many senses, feeling, powers, and faculties man has, which has enamored of beauty, worship pleasure, and are captivated by ornaments, and yearn for loveliness, the Houris comprise all of them. Every sort of adornment and exquisite loveliness, physical and spiritual and immaterial, which will please and satisfy all of them and gratify them and make them all happy. That is to say, just as the Houris are clothed in 70 of the varieties of the adornment of paradise, and not one sort, none of which conceal the others, so they display beauty and loveliness perhaps 70 times greater than their own bodies and beings, all of different sorts of varieties. They demonstrate the truth indicated by the verse, there will be there all that the souls could desire and all that the eyes could delight in. So chapter 43, verse number 71. There is also a hadith which states that since in paradise there are no unnecessary extraneous waste matters, the people of paradise will not excrete waste after eating and drinking. And this is a hadith from Bukhari and Muslim. Since in this lowly world, trees, the most ordinary of living beings, do not excrete despite taking in so much nourishment, why should the people of paradise, who are the highest class of life? Okay, so this is another interesting question and answer. The question was, hadith is mentioning Houris as they are clothed in 70 garments, yet the marrow of their leg bones may be seen. What does this mean? What sort of meaning can it have? What sort of beauty is this? And then the author said that, in a nutshell, that means it's not only the eye is going to enjoy the beauty, because if it was the eye, then just the outer shell, the most outmost garment is what the eye would see. But what is it that the rest can be seen? Then all your senses have something to benefit, to enjoy in them, that and nothing is a wasteful, or the word husk is used in here as if like you eat some fruit, the nutritious part you take in, the rest you throw away. That's what a husk is. So there is no extra or thing to be thrown away. It's purely every single portion of it is to be benefited from. So this is how the author is describing Houris. And even he opened up a parenthesis and said, the women of this world who in paradise, who will be like Houris and even more beautiful. Now makes me think, let's take it from here and expand it and extrapolate it. But this is, which is also in the hadith of Rasulullah. So for what a wife is married, and he counts 4 things. Let me see if I will remember. One was beauty, the other one was wealth, the third one was like family background, and the fourth is taqwa. And he says, choose the fourth one. So, I mean, if I am going to take now that I am taking authors' comparison on the basis of, again, narrations, that the women of this world that are in paradise would be even more beautiful than Huris. And now the author mentioned that the Huris having this many layers and all of them being beautiful means there is nothing wasteful or husk-like, but every aspect of them is beautiful and meaningful. So, and this also very much beautifully expresses the way Islam looks at women in this case, but also looks at human and the existence in this case, not only approaching it on the basis of physicality, reducing it to physical beauty or just my material interaction with it, material interaction with an apricot, for example. Not only that, but in all its aspects, beautiful names of the Creator is being manifest. There's nothing wasteful or unnecessarily extra. So in a sense, this also can be expanded further to another narration where Rasulullah says, the house of a believer is his paradise. Then my household with children in the house or the spouse or like whatever in that household happening, which might be seemingly good or bad, is a tool of paradise. Meaning from that thing that's happening, let it be a disease, let it be a joyful day. But the Creator is manifesting his names in this environment. And if I can get the lens of like the prophetic lens, then everything in that household is going to become beautiful for me. Nothing is going to be husk. Nothing is going to be, oh yeah, these aspects are good and I need to turn away and be patient with those other aspects. So at least potentially, this is indicating that such a door is open. With all its aspects, it's being 100% beautiful, 100% meaningful. And if I tie this back to the previous one, if I live with Messenger, with the love for the sake of Creator, and be next to the Messenger, my family life can become that paradise, and my wife will be the Huri and even more beautiful than the Huri. And her 70 garments, even her marrows in the leg bones are going to be beautiful for me, like, which I feel as when I look at my wife when feeding the child, and she is very busy and focused on feeding the child, but just when putting the spoon to his mouth and then closing her mouth as my son closes his mouth, like this sort of a minute detail of mercy that I observe over there. She is so much lost in feeding the baby with mercy, that mercy is to me like this minute detail. You need to pay attention to see that. And this is like this beauty in the marrow of leg bone. So it becomes so beautiful to the extent that I see it in the name of the Creator. Brother Birkan.
So if you are finished collecting points in your family, I can talk about the reality, of course. So I guess when we say the life becomes like a paradise, so usually we use this phrase in a heavy way. It becomes a burden on our shoulders, because our lives are not like a paradise. Like when you go to your work, because you can, extend what you said about your family to every aspect of your life, right? So when you go to work, obviously you are not seeing a paradise there. When you're having a fight within the family, you are not having a paradise there. So then you say, oh, but it must be like a paradise if I'm a good a believer. That is like such an the understanding becomes a burden on our shoulder, and we cannot, like we get crushed under it, because the reality of our life then tells us that, oh, we are not a good believer then, because life is not like a paradise. So I guess like there's, yes, truth in that, in the sense that it points us a direction that we should go towards that direction, searching for the paradise. But at the same time, we know that we will not find the paradise as in its entire sense in this world. We will be searching for the paradise, but the paradise will be waiting for us to be reached. It will be always a target. Because when we look at, like I was reading this book about the life of the Prophet, about the family, the relationships and so on, that's the way the author was starting that we think, and he was saying that most of the divorces is a result from such a mistaken understanding that after the first fight, the people start thinking that, oh, my wife or my husband is not a huri from the paradise, or just vice versa. And that means my, the household is not a place that I should be in. So the reality in this world is, again, trying to striving for the paradise, but you will have the fight. Every Sahaba had fights in their families. Even the biggest Sahabas, the companions, some of them, their sons, their daughters, the biggest ones. Of course, it's not, nice to talk about, big Sahaba or so. You get the idea, like the most famous ones. But I was shocked that when I learned, for the son of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he was unbeliever for a long time. He even fight against his father in the Badr. So I was shocked. Like they didn't see each other. The son saw the father, but didn't, approach because he was afraid. Father didn't see. And after he accepts Islam, father says, if I saw you on that day, I would kill you. But anyway, so this is the reality. So we shouldn't expect that, when I become a great believer, my children will be believer automatically. When I become a great believer, my relationship with my wife or my husband will be, a sample from a paradise automatically. So we shouldn't have such expectations, I guess. But in the sense that, yes, this is our target. We want to reach paradise in this world, and we will do everything for that purpose. But the life will be life, meaning, we will have fights, and then we will repent and, ask for forgiveness, and it will become a meaningful experience for us, even the fight. We have, inshallah, we won't. May Allah protect us from such, let's say, the trials. But we may have unbelievers even in our families, but we will still be patient and try to see the meaning in that. Try to use it as a means for reaching paradise. The event itself will be possibly not a sample from the paradise, but it will help us to reach paradise, inshallah. Going back to text, so I think it's really beautiful, as Yusuf said as well, like talking about the bone marrows and so on, they being visible. I guess the author is taking this visibility in the sense that it is accessible. It is accessible to our pleasures. It is accessible to our faculties. Now we, finished our discussions about the huris and so on. The Aisha who joins us. Anyway, everything about about them, everything about this creation, whatever in front of us, will be accessible to us. Nothing will be wasteful, in the sense that everything in front of us would be pleasing some of our senses. Materially, physically, non-physically, immaterially, all our faculties, they are pleasing. They are accessible to us. It's not like, so for instance, in this world, you have your computer. And there are some certain aspects of this computer that is not accessible to you if you are not familiar with them, if you don't know how to use them. Right? For some people, they just open their computer, they know how to press 3 buttons. These 3 buttons they just use every day, and that's the only thing they need. And that's the only thing, that's the only part of the computer they know. Even they have a giant horsepower, a computational power in their computer, it's just wasted. But if you are a computer engineer and you know all the details of the computer, every aspect of this device will be accessible to you and pleasing all your senses. You having a pleasure from the memory capacity. But someone else wouldn't even know what memory is. I guess with the paradise then, whatever in front of you will be accessible to you, pleasing your senses. Of course, you can take it the other way around, combining with the first question that we studied today. You will see to the extent that you are trained in this world to see. So for some people, the huris will only have skin. Some others, they will also have bone marrow, maybe. Jazakallah.
And again, in here, 70 garments and 7, 8 layers of paradise. These are all mentioning multiplicity, so multiple layers, multiple levels. So as if countless layers, countless levels, countless aspects of paradise or this existence is in front of me. So all in all, there is always this encouragement for striving for getting to know that this is a possibility potentially available for me. And so what do I do to benefit from that, I guess? And this is the last question in this chapter. So I will read it. I mean, we have 13 minutes. I don't know if you will be able to finish it. Let's read it. Question. It says in Hadith, some of the people of paradise are given lands as extensive as the world, and thousands of palaces and hundreds of thousands of huris are bestowed on them. And again, this is from Bukhari. What need has a single person of all these things? Why should it be necessary? How can this be? And what does it mean? The answer. If man was only a lifeless being or was only a vegetable creature, just a second. If man was only a lifeless being. Would you like to read?
Yes. But you have to change. If man was only a lifeless being, or was only a vegetable creature consisting of a stomach, or consisted only of a limited, heavy, temporary, simple corporality or animal body, he couldn't own many palaces and houris or be fit for them. That's very interesting, right? Because when we talk about the houris, because our let's say terrible understanding of the things, only corporality comes to mind. But the author says they are not fit for such a corporality. But man is such a comprehensive miracle of powers. If you don't mind, Yusuf, I will be careful here because we're talking about the, who is. In reality, it's not a controversial thing, but unfortunately, in the mainstream, it could be. So the translation says man, but it's human in the original. So I will use human if you don't mind. But human is such a comprehensive miracle of power that even in this transitory world and brief life, if he is given the rule of all the world with its wealth and pleasures, his ambition is not satisfied. In respect of the need of some of his subtle faculties, which do not develop here. His ambition is not satisfied in respect of the need of some of his subtle faculties, which do not develop here. It is therefore reasonable, right, and true that a person possessing an infinite capacity who knocks on the door of an infinite mercy with the hand of infinite desires and the tongue of infinite needs will receive in an eternal abode of bliss the divine bounties described in Hadith. We shall observe this elevated truth through the telescope of a comparison that is as follows. Should I stop here or continue reading? Although like this valley garden, all these gardens and vineyards of Barla is a place of name of a place in Turkey where he lived.
Here was a footnote that in here it says that is the garden of Suleiman, who served this poor one with perfect loyalty for 8 years, where this word was written in 1 or 2 hours. So he is giving the example of, as he was talking and somebody was writing when he gave this lesson, and this was written in a garden. So this valley garden is that garden.
All these gardens and vineyards of Barla have different owners. All the birds and sparrows and honeybees in Barla who have only a handful of grain for food may say all the gardens and orchards of Barla are my pleasant resorts where I fly around and enjoy myself. Each may take possession of Barla and include it in its property. Others sharing it does not invalidate his ownership. Similarly, a man who is a true human being may say, my creator made this world a house for me. The sun is my lamp and the stars my electric lights. The face of the earth is my resting place spread with flowered carpets. And he offers thanks to God. The other creatures sharing it does not negate his statement. On the contrary, the creatures adorn his house like decorations. And so, if in this narrow, fleeting world, by virtue of his humanity, a human being and even a bird claims a sort of power of disposal over such a vast sphere and receive such a vast bounty, how can it be deemed unlikely that he is given ownership of a property stretching over a 500-year distance in a broad and eternal abode of bliss? I think you are taking advantage of me, Yusuf, but I will continue. Moreover, just as in this dense and dark, narrow world, the sun is present in the same way at the same time in numerous mirrors, so too, as is proved in the 16th word, a luminous being may be present in many places in the same way at the same time. For example, Gabriel, peace be upon him, Jibril, being on 1,000 stars simultaneously and at the divine throne and in the presence of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and in the divine presence and the Prophet Muhammad, والسلام, meeting with most of the righteous of his community at the resurrection of the dead at the same time and appearing in this world in innumerable places simultaneously. And the strange group of the saints known as Abdal appearing at the same time in many places. And ordinary people sometimes carrying out as much as a year's work in 1 minute in a dream and observing this. And everyone being in contact with and concerned with numerous places at the same time in their hearts, spirits, and imaginations. All these are well known and may be witnessed. Do you mind continue, Yusuf, because my daughter asking for her reward. He did something nice.
Most certainly, in paradise, therefore, which is luminous, unrestricted, broad, and eternal, the people of paradise, whose bodies have the strength and lightness of the spirit and the swiftness of imagination, being in hundreds of thousands of places at the same time and conversing with hundreds of thousands of huris and receiving pleasure in hundreds of thousands of ways is fitting for that eternal paradise, that infinite mercy, and as told by the bringer of sure news, والسلام, is reality and the truth. Nevertheless, these vast truths cannot be weighed on the scales of our tiny minds. This tiny mind cannot perceive the true meanings, for this scale cannot bear such a weight. Glory be unto you, we have no knowledge, save that which you have told us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. O our sustainer, do not call us to task if we forget or fall into error. Amen. O God, grant blessings to your beloved, who by being your beloved and through his prayers flung open the doors of paradise, and because of the benedictions for him of its members, you confirmed its opening for his community, and bless him and grant him peace. O God, appoint us to paradise among the righteous through the intercession of your beloved, the chosen one. Amen.
Amen.
I think we shall conclude here, but maybe we should discuss this last question next week as well, right?
Oh, we can, although it is clear, kind of. Whichever you prefer, yeah.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. So if anybody wants to make any comment, please, I cut it short because of too much of background noise here, but